Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Saturday, Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. As we inch towards the holidays, and we turn back our start time to 10 p.m. London time to go ahead and have, actually, it's 9 p.m. right now. There's a time difference. But anyway, welcome everybody to Disclosure Tonight. Yeah, it's one of those days I'm not up to snuff, but we'll see how long this lasts. We'll have a fun time, enjoy it while we've got it, and then go apart our regular Saturdays. Hopefully some people out there in our audience have gotten out there and voted so far in the United States. Remember, Super Tuesday is on its way, and this is your chance to participate in our elections. On that note, let's go ahead and find the drums and welcome in our audience. All right, who the heck we have out there? Let's go ahead and take a look and see. Well, a small audience today. Happy Saturday again, everybody. Let's go ahead and not blast out the ears of the people in the back. There you go. Let's go ahead and welcome in Alex Park, Andy W., April R. Coleman, Brian Pemble, Country Carpenters here, along with J-Cat, Kathy, Kelly Brotner, Piercing Blue Eyes. Fernando Suazo just showed up, along with King Bull. Paul DeMond is here. Reality Check VIP, Robert Vargas, and the Chromosome Cowboy. How about that? How about that, folks? On that note, it's time to go ahead and, as usual, welcome in our back panel. Let's see who the heck we have back there. First, we have our dear friend coming all the way from United Kingdom. Let's welcome in Andy W. How's it going, Andy?
Hi, Thomas. Yeah, bloated, mate, bloated. Been out for an all-you-can-eat meal today, so I'm a little larger than I was earlier today.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it'll pass.
Yeah.
Give it some time.
With some alcohol in an hour or so. It's a bit early yet. Now it's only 9 p.m. So
there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Good to be back, though.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody.
Yes. Next we have our dear friend Brian Pemble, who's on his way to get Faye's will as they prepare to go ahead and see, as a VIP, LUE Elizondo tomorrow. How about that? How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great, Thomas. I want to thank you and Mike. I'm actually right out front. He's going to be speaking here tomorrow. I don't know if anybody can see the moniker on
there.
Yeah,
we got it.
We're looking forward to it, and thank you.
Uh-oh, we got a flying dog who's coming in before he goes to... Little Moosey's going off to the vet to get his blood taken. Again, poor little guy. We had hoped his heartworm was going to be taken care of, but apparently it's not. So back to the vet he goes one more time. On that note, let's go ahead and welcome our dear friend, Hollywood Harold. How's it going, Harold?
Awesome as usual, Thomas. Man of 1,000 hats. I finally get to wear my Detroit Lions hat after years.
There you go. You got a little bit of scruff there. It's looking good on you, my friend. Makes you look younger.
Football season, right?
Also, coming in from the upper Midwest, let's welcome in our remote viewer targeter, Laura Campbell. How's it going, Laura?
It's going well, except for the Peanut the squirrel and his poor little brother, the raccoon. It's been kind of rough reading all the comments. But yeah, Trump got involved with a statement, so I think everybody should check that out. Viva Free's talking about it.
Oh, yeah, I've got him queued up on the screen as one of the first stories we're going to cover. We'll talk about that again shortly. Thank you for coming in today, Laura. Yeah. Also want to welcome in, coming in from the great state of Ohio, Mr. Matt Ramone, who's usually at work, but he's not today. How's it going, Matt?
Good. Enjoying the day off, and can't wait to hear the rest of the show.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
Yeah. Yes, and while he knows the sound of the curtain call, Mike, Disclosure is on a phone call. He will be joining us shortly. How about that? Got to have some fun with it. Well, turning our sights on the first story we've got going on here today, yes, you'd have to be living under a rock. And even if you were living under a rock, where are we getting to? Desktop document. You'd be having a hard time missing this story. Unfortunately, Peanut the squirrel was taken into custody by the Democrats in New York because You're not allowed to have squirrels living with you. So, irrespective of all the crime and all the things that are going on, their sanctuary was raided. And poor Peanut and his raccoon friend were taken into custody. And unfortunately, euthanized. How terrible is that? Is his dad there is with Peanut. Peanut was a small squirrel when his mom was hit by a car. And this cute couple went and rescued the squirrel and took him into their care. And he's known for eating waffles, hanging out with raccoons, and jumping around like a squirrel. It's sad, Laura, to go ahead and see something like this actually go on. Especially with 14 people raiding the guy's house. 14 people for a squirrel and a raccoon, 5 hours. It's craziness. Where is the world headed, my friends? Where is it headed? Well, I know it's just one of those things. Let's get back to my desk here. All right, get to there for a second. Let me get some other stuff together, see what we've got to talk on. Well. If it wasn't enough, like it never is, get out your pocketbooks because there's another UFO cruise coming out, but this time it's not going up to the frigid waters of Alaska. This one gives you a chance to go and hang out with the one, the only, that Stephen Greer. That's right, friends. You have an opportunity to go ahead and hang out with Stephen Greer. Let me see if I can find the details. I know I've got it in here somewhere. Oh, get down a little bit, make it quicker and easier. Oh, there we go. The first time ever. Join Dr. Greer and his team on for a CE5 on a cruise in the Caribbean. 4 nights under the stars, 2 days of classes, plus ports of call and other ship activities. Going from April 6th through the 12th, 2025, a maximum of 200 participants. How about that? Andy, are you excited? Do you have your pocketbook out for this one?
I think I'm going to have to pass. I don't like boats.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things you kind of take a look at and just have to wonder, does it get any better? Well,
I will say I won't be looking to the sky. I'll be looking to the sea if I'm on the boat. So, yeah, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things we just have to go ahead and take a look at and realize, well, it's one of those things we're going to go ahead and see what's going on and understand what's happening now. Also, talking about a mysterious red glow that showed up over the Pacific Ocean. Let me get the text up on this one so people can see it a little bit better. There we go. Coming to us from the black hole on Twitter. A mysterious red glow over the Pacific Ocean. Now, pilots reportedly, I have not seen the actual facts on this one besides this post, so I'm not going to say I talked to the pilots of the 747-8 on this one, but reportedly, pilots of a Boeing 747-8 flying near the coast of Kamchatka. I always say that wrong. That's up near the Arctic Circle, kind of near where the Aleutian Islands are, come together between the United States and Russia, I believe, spotted an extraordinary red glow several kilometers away. As they approached, they observed that the light source was deep in the ocean, appearing on the surface as bright red dots. These lights were so intense that they projected columns of light several meters high. Now, science suggests possible explanations, including an underwater volcanic eruption. However, some ufologists speculate that this unusual event might have otherworldly origins. Now, I know they've got a picture here showing out a red sky. Stars off in the distance. Looks like the Aurora Borealis is even going on. Can't say this is an accurate photo, but it's an interesting story. Nonetheless. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see what we've got going on here. Nope, not that one. Oh, did I get in the wrong one? Yeah, I did. All right, let's go on to it. Well, yeah, we talked about this one last night. We'll talk about it again. Unfortunately, well, not fortunately, Lou Elizondo, in response to showing a picture of a light that's been created using an effect called Pepper's Ghost. That's where you have a reflection in a room that's projecting onto a sheet of glass, and what you're seeing out in front of you in the overall window is a combination of what's behind you and what's in front of you. And this is exactly what happened. Unfortunately, Lou Elizondo got some bad information and kind of, it is up here a little bit, turned it in. How did I lose that picture? Hold on. I'm in the wrong folder. Give me a second here, folks. Thomas. I'll get into this one. I'm in all bookmarks. I'm supposed to be in show bookmarks. Yeah, it's one of those days. Give me a second here, everybody. Bookmarks. Show. All right, let's get back into this one more time. And there's the other stories I was looking for. How about that? They magically show up. That one. Okay, now where did it go? Did I Andy, it's one of those days.
Yeah, I can see that, mate. Too many folders, too much information.
No, I've got the stuff here, but I swear I had a bunch of additional things in here that, either way, go back to the chandelier. The post that I'm looking for has magically disappeared. This can't be right. It's like a majority. You know what? Let me get to a different browser here. Hold on a second. Something's not right. Let me get to Safari. Oh, one of those days. So how was this week for you, Andy?
Yeah, a lot of rest and relaxation, mate. Yeah, really good. Yeah, not doing a lot. Taking a week vacation from work is well needed. It's good to be back. And
yeah,
I was at my parents' earlier on, and my father gets the Daily Mail paper, and there was an article in there about a new, I think it's Netflix possibly, or
the one
Amazon
called Arrow, right?
No, it's going to be a new series, The King of UFOs, I think it's called, and it's about our now King Charles.
Oh,
it's
wow.
how the royals were really interested in UFOs. Unfortunately, it's a newspaper article. I'm just about to look up the name of it and where it was from.
Royalty is involved with UFOs, Andy? That's interesting.
Well, they have been for years. I believe it was Lord Mountbatten who was the Queen's uncle. They had a potential UFO land on their estate down near Southampton in the south of England. I know Prince Philip, Queen's husband, was deeply interested in the subject. So yeah, I'm just trying to. And I've just had a pop up on my thing. Royal Navy shoots down a drone over the Bristol Channel. So that's probably a drone. That's something fairly close to where I am now.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Not
Lord.
bad. Thomas, I have some breaking news.
Hold on one second. If you've got to do breaking news.
Yeah.
We have a breaking UFOs alert coming from Mike.
Yes,
Disclosure.
we do. We're going to have a surprise special guest on the show today. It's going to be Lou's personal attorney, Ivan Hannel.
Oh, wow.
He'll be joining us in a few minutes. If you want, you could update the title card.
Yeah, I can go ahead
So
and do that.
we're going to have an interesting conversation today, everybody. Big surprise.
Good one.
That's what I was working on. It's why I was late to the show.
Good
My
one,
apologies.
Mike. I'm glad you took that idea and ran with it.
Yes, sir. I did.
Oh yeah, gotta have
So
some
it's
fun.
going to be it's going to be a fun one.
All right, let me figure out what in the heck I did with that window. Let's go to here. Let's see if I have it here somewhere. There's a live stream show. Get this up. So, Mike, beyond that, interesting show last night, going ahead and talking about the light fixture incident.
Absolutely. I agree. It was very interesting, and it's still ongoing.
Yes.
It hasn't been resolved yet. And we're going to be able to talk with Ivan about it. He has an interesting take on it. So we'll get more information coming from the LUE side of things on that event. And other things as well, like the upcoming hearings and other things. So it's going to be a lot of interesting new information about the LUE camp, the hearings, and what's currently going on with Disclosure.
All right. So Ivan
Hannel.
Hannel?
Hannel. Hannel.
Stop it.
Something having an exorcism going on?
No, the little ones are running around in the house. Hannel.
I got it. Done. I just changed the name of the show to UFO
good.
News Roundup with Ivan Hannel, LUE Elizondo's lawyer.
Correct.
Oh.
Yep. We have an exclusive, so this will be a fun show for everybody.
Oh gosh,
for the
yeah.
audience.
You know, Ivan is someone we've been talking with for some time now, Mike.
I know.
Behind the scenes, of course.
Of course. Ivan is a good friend. And it's going to be nice for him to come and talk to everybody about the conversations that we've had privately.
Yeah. And to hear more about his firm. I guess his firm actually represents a couple people in Disclosure, and it's there to help out with other things, I believe, that Ivan can tell us about.
Ivan will be more than happy to fill everybody in on it, on the work that he's doing and the stuff that's going on that you and I are aware of behind the scenes.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, on that note, we do have two people. Well, actually, we have Brian is here. He's getting ready to see LUE Elizondo tomorrow at the Rialto Theater. That should be a good one. Him
in
and his
Tucson,
wife
Arizona.
and Faze Will. It should be a good one.
It's going to be fun. Plus, also, I believe that he's going to be there and covering the event for us.
As a VIP.
Yes, backstage passes and all.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, no, it'll be good coverage for us, the audience, LUE, everybody. Oh, and I see now we have a lot of hands that just came up back here. I guess a lot of questions.
Laura, go ahead. Yeah, sorry, it's been out there for a little bit and I ignored it. Laura, go ahead.
Your mute button is still on, Laura.
Maybe when he's finished with LUE's case, he can take on the squirrel and the raccoon case. That would be fabulous. Andy, I wanted, make room for it. Andy, I wanted to mention, when you mentioned King Charles, this just came on my feed today from Future Forecasting Groups. Edward Reardon, October 24th, remote viewed. He actually had a dream. And in this dream, a friend told him that King Charles is in communication with extraterrestrials. And here's the proof.
Yeah,
So-
I've actually I've just linked to the Daily Mail story in the back chat, Thomas.
Sure,
Maybe
let me go ahead and bring up
if we
this
got some time before
yeah.
Ivan comes, after Harold and everybody else has put their hand up.
All right, so thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. And the story coming, let me get this into a different browser because the ads at the Daily Mail can be a little bit overwhelming. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, don't worry. It's not your fault. And their site is not mobile optimized. How about that? Go figure. All right. So, how the royals may know the truth about aliens. Expert Dr. David Clark reveals why UFO experts were invited to the palace and the mysterious sealed files that might hold the answer. Well, King Charles is known as a man of discerning tastes and strong opinions. He has a long-held interest in alternative beliefs and mystical therapies, as we all know his thoughts on leaky pens. But who would have thought His Majesty may also have been a close associate of visitors from another planet and was once spotted at the controls of a UFO? Have you heard that before, Andy?
The first thing I heard was when I read this earlier on. I think it may have been something like the Avro car, but they say it had two like fans or blades. I think the Avro car only had the one, so
Yeah.
I don't know. But King Charles is a certified helicopter pilot and airplane pilot as well.
So this bizarre claim is being made in a new TV documentary, which examines the royals' interest in UFOs and other paranormal mysteries. King of UFOs, as you mentioned is the name, Andy, made by the British musician and UFO buff Mark Christopher Lee, and now available on Amazon Prime, asks the question, does the royal family know what's really out there? Harold, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to mention to Brian when he goes tomorrow and stuff, make sure you clean your camera up so you got plenty of space on it, and make sure you use the landscape mode on it and stuff.
Make sure it's charged. Make sure it's charged.
Yeah. Yep. Make sure you got a power charger with you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Hollywood. Harold, back to the story. In the documentary, he speaks to a diver by the name of Dan Costello, who says he witnessed Charles, then Prince of Wales, at the controls of a saucer-shaped craft with dual rotor blades at Sandy Point in Nova Scotia, Canada, in 1975. If you ask me, that does not sound like a true UFO, Andy. That sounds more like a human-made craft that was created to resemble a UFO.
Yeah, that's why I thought, first of all, the Aero car, but that was pre the 70s, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that only had a central blade system, propulsion system.
This
and
could
I
be
could only get a few inches off the ground.
Yeah, this one could be an updated. Granted, we're talking about something in the mid-70s here. So it's interesting to see and understand that, yeah, if I got a picture here of Charles. There we go. There's Ivan. There's Charles back when he was a prince. And there we go. How about that? Thank you for that updated story, Andy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. No worries.
Yeah. Mike, do you want to do the honors?
Oh, I can, but real quick, can you check on Firefly? She seems to be blocked from writing in the chat. Something must have happened.
Yeah, not me.
Nope, but you could look into it because she's not able to write in the front chat. So anyway, I want to introduce to our audience
problem too.
Our good friend, Ivan Hannel, who is doing a lot of interesting work for Disclosure. And we want to welcome him to the show and thank him very much for sharing his time with us so that we can talk about everything that's currently going on. Ivan, welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Coming on, my friend.
Well, unfortunately, being a lawyer, you're pretty much never off. So what was going on is client work and the usual stuff. So no fun, but that's life.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Calls.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I just wanted to say Thomas and I understand about being very busy behind the scenes with everything, not just at being an attorney. It never seems to stop.
Yeah, I think the hard part is when you're an attorney, I've always like when you see people and they go and they're like, I know somebody's like a bartender, and then they tell me they never think about the bar when they're not at the bar. But the thing about law is that you're always thinking about your cases, and sometimes I'll think of something at night and I'll literally get up, it comes to you at like 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, wake up and think, oh, I better, write that down. I better attend to that. So it's like, there's never really a moment off if you're invested in your cases and in your clients. And, so your mind is, at least my mind is always working. So it gets, sometimes I think, oh man, there's people who just can kind of leave work and not think about it for, 8-10 hours of the weekend. It's kind of nice, but anyway, yeah, it's good to see you all. And I've enjoyed your show. Whenever I get to catch it, I wish I could catch more things on YouTube, but it's not been possible for a while. So this is kind of like a guilty pleasure.
For us as well, Ivan.
Thanks.
There's a lot going on, and we're all very busy involved with that. And this is the opportunity that we usually have to share that with the public and our audience. So we appreciate you being here and being a part of it with us as well.
Oh yeah, no problem. I appreciate the chance. Nice to meet everybody. Hey, Thomas, nice to finally meet you. And yeah, great show. Look forward. Sorry, I feel like I'm cutting in the middle of this, so I'm not sure what you were chatting about. But
don't worry about it.
I'll be happy to stick around for about half an hour, and whatever you want to ask or whatever you want to talk about, happy to join in.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you want to go ahead and tell us about your involvement with LUE and your firm's involvement with whistleblowers and disclosure, et cetera? That'd be great to hear, to at least bring our audience up to speed.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to, kind of give you as much detail as you want. So please stop me and tell me when to stop. So I'm an attorney. I live in Northern California, just north of San Francisco. It's a place called Petaluma. It's a small town, nice town. And that's where I live now. But I was living in Arizona for most of my legal career. So I'm barred in California, Arizona, and Colorado. So that's where I practice. I'm an attorney for a staffing company, like a nationwide staffing company. So we send workers to do all sorts of things in all sorts of places like hospitals and universities and construction sites, all sorts of things. So that's kind of my main job. And I'm also the head of litigation for a small law firm in Arizona. So those are the kind of the legal things. But in terms of LUE, I'm representing him in some matters. I'm his attorney. He certainly can always consult with other attorneys as he wishes, but I try to help LUE out as best I can with some of the issues he faces. And LUE's been a terrific client. He's a really good human being. I consider him a friend, and him and his wife and his family. So it's great. So I've been able to help LUE, and then so I think that's what people are mostly interested in. But in addition to which, a group of attorneys and I formed something called the Disclosure Advocacy Group, DAG for short. It's not been formally launched yet. There is a process to get a 501c3 set up, which there's sort of a long and short form, and we went for the long form, so it takes more time. But we'll be trying to help, whether it's individual whistleblowers or doing sort of advocacy behind the scenes or consults, whatever you want to call it. So that'll be that FOIA request. But again, takes a bit more time than I wish it would have to get that off the ground. It's in the nature of the paperwork and the attorneys involved who all want to do things in a very correct and conservative way. In terms of complying with the law. And then in addition to which, I'm the chief counsel for UAP Disclosure Fund. That's a recent thing. And so I kind of have a variety of hats, working with LUE, working with UAP Disclosure Fund, and then working with the lawyers at Disclosure Advocacy Group. So those are kind of the maybe 3 hats that I wear in terms of ufology.
Yeah. Wow. Considering we've got hearings coming up,
Sure.
UAP Disclosure front and all the different people you're working with, you've probably been very busy.
Yeah, I mean, that's to say the least. And I think a lot of it is just, simply uncertainty. Obviously, we hope the hearings happen. But, I tell people privately, and I think I've told this to Mike, I've said, you could have chosen a more difficult week other than this week, right? Like in the sense that, before the election versus after the election, these are contentious weeks. And depending on what happens, next week, I think we'll know more about whether the hearings are happening. I suspect that they are. I hope that they are. But, there's a part in my mind which is like, geez, what could happen, right after the election? Could there be chaos in D.C.? You never know. So my mind runs to that. I think a lot of other people do. But I think for these hearings, if they do happen, I hope they do, because who knows when the next ones are coming. Granted, there's a Senate thing most likely, but, it would be into next year. And I think we need to continue to push push this momentum of disclosure forward. So I definitely hope they happen. I just don't know that for, 100%.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of keeping the beat of disclosure going, because before, when Lou had been quiet for a year and a half or over a year for a period of time when he was waiting for his book to come out, there was a lot of statements going out unchallenged by people like Sean Kirkpatrick and others that, if you want to call it, poured water on any momentum, on any of the fire that was built up by David Grusch coming out. And now that we've got Lou in his book and now his tour and other stuff going forward, hopefully we're going to be having that regular kind of a momentum happening, because, Lou doesn't like to be the leader of disclosure, but he kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, he is a very articulate person. It's funny, I'll just share this. I have people always telling me, could Lou say something in a particular way, or could he, do this, or we'd like to give him this advice. And I mean, this happens daily, several times a day, of people trying to tell Lou Elizondo how to speak. And as an attorney, for example, when I prepare witnesses, I prepare my witnesses really well. Like, it's probably one of the harder experiences of their lives when I prepare them for a deposition, and then they walk into the deposition, and usually it's a lot easier for them. Like, they're like, wow, this, there's that saying in from the fight game, which is train hard, fight easy. So if you train really hard, your fight's going to be really easy. But with Lou, he's just such a fluid, good, communicator, that I have no fears. And he's and even though he is, he has 1,000, like he's cut by 1,000 paper cuts, because his attention is just bifurcated and cut into pieces, and people want moments of his attention. And I really almost don't know how he does it, but when he does, have moments of time where he can really focus, he can be extremely, detailed and elaborate. So, he's a terrific communicator. He is the voice of disclosure, for better or for worse. I know he wishes the burden were a little bit more distributed, but he is just a great talker. He's a good thinker. I think he's humble, and I think he comes across well. So it's just sort of in his nature to be that person who is the figurehead, or at least the voice of disclosure. But I think he sees it as a team effort. He doesn't have any ego that this is his project. He merely feels a responsibility to it, and tries to do his best. But, like anybody else, it's a pretty taxing thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike?
No, Ivan is right about everything that he said. It's very taxing, and there's a lot of moving parts that go on behind the scenes, as you and I and Ivan are well aware of. So you can't judge anybody by one instance or one occurrence or one thing. There's a lot more than that goes on, that more than meets the eye. So
yeah, he's just a tremendous speaker and communicator, and I just have every confidence whenever he's about to say something, he'll do the best job that he can. But like anything else, he's not perfect. None of us are. I've certainly made my mistakes, and you live and learn. Go forward.
And that's one thing. Lou did have that incident recently that happened with some bad information that came his way that he talked about at one of his recent talks in public, but as soon as it found out, he owned up to it. So it's one of those things, and that's one thing Lou always said he'd do. If he makes a mistake, unlike many others who don't own up to it, he does.
Yeah, he's very humble. I mean, I'll tell you, behind, the person you see on the screen in front of you when you see him talk is very much the person you'll see behind the scenes as well. That is to say, he's funny, he's self-deprecating, he is more than willing to accept advice or admit a mistake, and he's also very trusting. And so to that extent, if he's, talks about something, he may, he can make a mistake because he's quite trusting. So it's, I like his approach, and yeah, it's going to happen when you're talking, so many hours a day and presenting information. There are going to be some mistakes, but yeah, he's the type of guy who'll own up to things, and I think that's to his credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, do you have some questions as well?
Ivan, what are you expecting or working towards with the potential upcoming hearing on November 13th, if they even have it? Because we broke that story here about they're working behind the scenes, the Pentagon and certain members of Congress, like Mike Turner, to get the hearing canceled. They can't seem to be able to shut the whistleblowers up from talking publicly, but if they can shut down the whole hearing, that seems to be the approach. That aside, what specifically are you preparing for with this upcoming hearing, Ivan?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, one of the general frustrations you just pointed out is the people who are roadblocking the hearings or lobbying against it. You just want to know what their names are and them to come out and say what they're going to say. I mean, this is just ridiculous, that there's this behind the scenes nonsense to suppress or prevent a hearing. I mean, if they don't believe in this, then just let it happen. I mean, it just goes back to the same old thing. It's not that hard. If you don't think there's any UAP, great. Just stay at home. We'll do the investigation. We'll get back to you later, but let it happen. So I just think it's absurd that there are elements out there trying to prevent a hearing from happening. So there's that. But in terms of behind the scenes, I mean, there's a lot of logistics. I know that, UAP Disclosure Fund may have an event after the hearings, and that would be exciting. There's a lot of potential opportunities to make this hearing something we can build on, whether it's through testimony of new whistleblowers, whether it's from testimony from people who've already spoken before Congress or new ones. I think it'll be interesting in terms of what's got my mind, and this is separate and apart. So I'm not talking as much of what I expect to happen at the hearings, because frankly, I'm not privy to what's going on internally with the House Oversight Committee. So you get snippets of we think this, we think that, but I still don't know for a fact. So I like everybody else, I can understand this seesaw between, the hearings are not happening, they're definitely happening, this witness is coming, this witness is not coming. It's a little odd even for me, because just from an outsider's point of view, I thought that Congress would be, planned 6 months out. Everything would be super well organized. You would know exactly what would happen. It would be timed down to the minute. And it turned out it was like, is this like a city council meeting where you don't know if you're going to be up at 7 or not, at 10 o'clock, and you got to sit through the whole thing. It feels a little funny in that respect, but I'm sure they're doing their homework and they'll get it all set up. For me, the hearings are, just an opportunity to hear from some new people, some old people, and hear the tone of what the, I'm curious as to what the interlocutors, the representatives will be asking. Obviously, trying to surmise the questions that they have is something that you attempt to do. I think that's pretty hard to do, though. So you have to be available to it. I'll tell you what. Outside of the hearings, but still related to it, is one of the fundamental and core issues where, as an attorney, and I know other attorneys who have the same question, and we're trying to figure it out, is what is it that prevents whistleblowers from coming and speaking directly to a congressperson, not to their staff? The staff have a different situation than the members themselves constitutionally, right? So what is it that prevents whistleblowers from telling if they believe there is, gross abuse or mismanagement or illegality? What is it that prevents them from directly speaking to a congressperson and telling that congressperson the whole truth? The whistleblowers think that they will get in trouble, that they will go to jail, or that their post-career security clearances may be jeopardized. And so they have their own thinking and they have their own experience. So you have that, right? But what is the law on that? And is there law on that? And where are you looking? And who is telling you this? Those are some questions that I think we need to have greater clarity on. It's a source of interest, let's say. I don't have any immediate conclusions other than to say, you know, for our system to work, for the U.S. government system to work, we need to have it so that Congress is informed about what the executive is doing.
Checks and balances, right? That's what they're supposed to do.
Right. It's back in conjunction junction days when you were in third grade, and then you learned about the different parts of government and how they're supposed to work. So if you have an executive or a cabal within it, or whatever you want to call it, which is preventing by simply asserting that it does not have to provide to, at least let's say, the Gang of Eight, the actual representatives who are in the Senate and in the House and part of the intelligence committees, that they don't have to tell the Senate this or the House, because they've just decided that there's some, referencing the Espionage Act or whatever you want, that this is something that they don't have to provide to our representatives, seems at some fundamental level anti-democratic, anti-Republican, and just unconstitutional. And getting to the bottom of it is going to take time. I can't, again, I'm not a national security expert, and we're going to have to get the right people to opine on this. But even with some digging we've done, there's more digging to do. Let's just leave it at that.
So what you're kind of talking about here is literally a rogue executive branch. It's not just the DOD, it's not just the DOE, it's not just the intelligence community, because all of these different organizations all roll up under the executive branch, realistically speaking.
Right. There's the whistleblowers such as the ones I've spoken to, or potential ones, and I haven't spoken to many, I'll be honest. But there seems to be a belief that they've been inculcated, because they've come from, most of them, sort of a DOD, IC background, into the belief that, or they were there at one point, that were they to disclose, again, in a secured facility, to a member and not their staff. So staff is different. They weren't elected, they're part of the package, but they're not supposed to necessarily, they don't have the same rights. But yeah, why can't we, why have you internalized, and when I say you, I mean, why is the whistleblower, why have you internalized this narrative that you cannot come forward? And they believe that, they believe that very strongly, but getting down to the precise details of where they have gotten their information, who has told them that they can't testify, what is the document that they signed, and why they believe that would inhibit them from telling, whoever, the head of the Senate or the head of the House. It's curious. So it's definitely something that we want to get to the bottom of. And I think we will over time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially since you and I are working privately behind the scenes, Ivan, to opine on this very question. And it's a very complicated rabbit hole to go down. There's many different answers to this. It's complicated. It's not a simple answer. I could also tell you that as far as Congress and elected officials are concerned, and Thomas and I have talked about this to the audience on the show many times, the representatives usually use their staff as buffers. Their excuse for that is, like, a lot of them don't have a law background. They're just elected officials. So when they have a whistleblower or a witness that wants to come forward with testimony, they usually utilize their legal staff, which is part of their general staff, to interview and be the first direct contact with a lot of these witnesses. The next thing is that it's an election issue for them. They try to keep plausible deniability in place for their constituents to elect them if they are not someone, or their constituents do not follow this subject, or feel that possibly their elected representative in Washington might be spending too much time on a fringe subject and not so much on the issues that they were initially elected to be in office for. It's complicated. It's not one simple answer that applies to this, but all of it needs to be addressed. at one point, right, Ivan?
Well, I mean, yeah, I assume you're looking at, talking to different people and getting your perspective. I'm doing a bit of that as well. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and I don't have any immediate answers, just a lot of additional questions and wanting to get more specificity on things. But I think you're right. It's a whole host of things. It's one that the representatives tend to use their staff even for, as a buffer, often because they're just cut into 1,000 pieces, and the staff can engage with people with greater detail, and so they get part of it is just sort of practical.
Yeah.
Part of it may be sort of a buffering effect. Part may be that they don't want to have something come out saying I met with a person who believes in UFOs when I should have been dealing with when my opponent says I should have been dealing with the floods down here or whatever. I get it. There's a whole host of reasons, but mine is a very more legal and narrow inquiry. But I understand that there may be many different reasons why Congress people are reluctant to meet directly with whistleblowers or potential whistleblowers. Sure. Yeah.
Well, the topic itself still has some stigma going along with it, Ivan, and that could be part of it, as you kind of brought up. It's I had a conversation with such, and you were saying it makes sense because it's a topic that could go in a positive or a negative way for a candidate. And again, that's why they potentially have a chief of staff and why they have all the staff members there, so they can get the information, the briefing, because they, delegate, I guess. But Andy, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, Ivan, just from somebody who's really on the periphery of this subject, we've got an interest and whatever. I find it so hard to believe that these people are pushing back on something that they say doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's why are you pushing? If this thing doesn't exist, obviously, then everybody who's talking LUE and everybody else, I'm saying this in general, has to be crazy. So we'll just ignore them. Obviously, there's a reason why people are talking. There's a reason why there's a pushback. None of us out here are stupid or completely stupid. I'm just sort of 2 levels above stupid, but even I can sort of see that.
Well, yeah, and also when you have a British accent, that automatically adds 10 IQ to whatever you say.
Not me, because I sound like a pirate. I'm unfortunately from that part of the. I don't speak Queen's English.
Whatever it is, wonderful. I can't tell. I'm sorry. I apologize for. But anyway, wonderful accent. Yeah, it is a peculiar thing that there's so many people who are opposed to this. And going back to also what Thomas was saying about the stigma is, I tell you, as an attorney, I've tried to bring this topic to other attorneys. I'm part of large listservs that have, 500, 1,000 attorneys and, trying to get them involved. I'm also part of the Association of Corporate Counsel, and I run head of their litigation network. And trying to get other attorneys to take this seriously is not easy. The stigma is still there of what are you talking about? And, they're more concerned about, like laws affecting their immediate cases. And I get it. Makes sense, right? But it is hard, but it does then give you perspective about LUE coming back, coming forward in the 2017, 14, 15, that whole period of time when he was engaged in this, being so early to this, when there really wasn't quite as much momentum. And then, of course, you go to the figureheads back in the day, like Jacques Vallée and others. I mean, they were just super brave. You just got to give it credit, because there's so many people, honestly, in the ufology community who are like, they should do this. Like the whistleblower should fall on their sword. They should tell this to everybody and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, well, what have you done, sir, in your own life to promote disclosure? And they're like, oh, I can't say anything. I would get fired from my job. And it's like, so you want somebody else to sacrifice what they, their livelihood and their sense of, what they have going on, but you're not willing to do it yourself. And so, I don't know, I get, mixed feelings about it all at times, in the sense that I both think, obviously, just like you said, Andy, it's like, why not, let this investigation happen? But on the other hand, the people who do have reluctance or concerns, their concerns can't be just dismissed, so it's kind of a mixed thing here. Yes, Congress, you should be more interested. You should take your duties seriously. You should subpoena people. You should demand information. You should get to the specifics. You should assert yourselves. Okay, we have that. And you shouldn't be roadblocked by your staff or anything else. This is what you're here to do. On the other hand, for the whistleblowers, you want them to be brave and to feel confident and to know that they can come forward. But on the other hand, you can't promise them that everything's going to go great. And many of them don't have resources to hire attorneys for 500, 600, 700, who knows, $1,000 an hour. They just don't have those kind of resources. They're usually, former civil service or associated with it, right? Or government. So I think it's a complicated situation like anything else, but I think we are in a place of change. This is a time of change, and I think this issue is just gonna move out there and kind of capture more people's imaginations. Maybe November 13th will help with that. We'll find out. But I'm dedicated to the legal task I have for LUE and for UAP Disclosure Fund and for Disclosure Advocacy Group, and I have my own curiosity. For me, this is a big civics question. For everybody, for a lot of people, it's like a tech issue, like they're like, oh, I want to see the technology because I want to go to Mars and build subdivisions, or, I want to levitate, and other people are like, I want to commune with the, good spirits and get away from the bad ones. But for me, it comes down to, making sure our system works. And our system has been not in a good place for many years in terms of our political system here in the United States. We're not in a good place, but this issue is one where we might develop more unity, right? You can see it. It's a bipartisan issue. It's one of the few ones that are really, truly bipartisan. And so I hope we can do something with it, but we'll see.
Yeah, one of our favorite two words put together, national security. If you look back to 1947, when the National Security Act was initially put in place, then we had the Atomic Energy Act, I think in 54, that came out not that much long after it. Those two pieces of law that were put into place fundamentally changed our country and Congress and our government from truly being the United States of America to the national security state of America. Unfortunately, we can't talk about this, we can't talk about that, national security above everything else. But when does the white flag of humanity get raised as an important piece? Because they've been keeping this truth from us. Why is it, of so much importance that we can't bring this out that we've known about for so many years, yet it's the most monumental discovery that we've had, that we're not alone on this planet and we're not alone in this universe.
Yeah, I think we've had a problem in the United States for a long time with, and I'm not a conspiracist deep state person, but on the other hand, I will say that the rules and procedures which have been produced both in law and in other ways, and just culturally, I think the United States, and I love this country. This is a great country. It's not perfect, but it's done, it's done some many great things. Yeah. But it is, to maintain a democracy and maintain a functioning system, it takes vigilance. You can lose it, and we've allowed ourselves, not just in this area of UAP, but in so many other areas, we've allowed ourselves to, essentially relinquish control of what the government is allowed to do. We've relinquished control to lobbying groups, which have changed our laws. And it's just not a good place to be. I think it brings up the issue of, the average citizen doesn't feel as empowered to make change and to hear their, to have their voices heard. And there is unfortunately, there's a big element in our population which seems to have some agreement with this idea that we shouldn't know. There are plenty of people who feel that we should not know. And I'm not just talking about UAPs. They could be also talking about programs abroad that, that the United States does, which are maybe not great. Even monitoring our own internal corporate communications, or the rules that attend to evidence and corporations. I mean, you just go on and on and on and on. We've ceded our authority over ourselves to a very sort of maybe lobbying groups and a bureaucracy, and it's very frustrating. So UAP is one issue, but it's not alone to the extent that we've allowed other areas of our lives to be very nebulous and very confusing. And so it's unfortunate. We need to address things.
Absolutely. If we could, Laura.
Yes, thank you, Ivan. David Grusch has his hearing June, I believe, 2nd coming up. And I'm wondering your opinion about if, it seems like an easy case that it was illegally, they released his medical records. I don't know how they can show that they didn't. And then additionally, can they also go after the journalist who then wrote the subsequent story? Does he have a case there? And if he wins, what's the repercussion for the UFO community? Do you think it'll stifle any others? Or if he loses, what's your opinion?
I haven't read on David Grusch's the pleadings in his case. I only know about it very generally, that there was a member of the media, I forget what his name was, but he was sort of a not a very
Ken
nice
Klippenstein.
What'd you say?
Ken Klippenstein, Ivan.
Yeah, Ken Klippenstein. Yeah, that's right. I apologize. Don't remember his full name. Look, as to whether the media can be liable for the release of information, I think that's going to be a hard road. I'd have to kind of look at all the details. So I'm sorry, I haven't really analyzed that legally, but I think that would probably be a hard road to do. He is a member of the media. He did get this information from someplace, probably Department of Defense. Who knows who the leaker was? So I can't predict the legal outcomes of it, but I can say at the very least that it's just horrible what happened to Dave. And I'm glad he has attorneys who are advocating for him on the civil side. And as far as Ken Klippenstein, I think really, and again, I'm not going to give a legal opinion because I just don't know the underlying facts that well, but I will say this. What discredit? I mean, really just on the face of it, right? Forget any legal ramification, just as a journalist to release information about a person's past treatment for PTSD, having, suffered some, events abroad for our country and come back. What a, I can't use the words I'd like to use, or I shouldn't, but he isn't doing himself any good. And, whether something is legal isn't always necessarily, you should ask yourself, is this moral? And I think he missed that basic question. Yeah. So whether it's legal or not, is it moral? Are you doing the right thing? And really, what bearing? When Dave Grusch presented himself in Congress, he came across as being truthful to me. I mean, I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not saying everybody had to perceive him as being equally, honest, but I didn't see him to be lying. I didn't see him to be exaggerating. I thought he was telling his truth. And remember, when people say, well, he shouldn't have said this, or he should have said something in this way. It's like, oh, that's easy for you to say. And plus, people should be free to be themselves. They should be free to be themselves. And I think Dave Grusch did something very brave. Maybe some people didn't receive it well, but a lot of people did. And he seems to me to be telling the truth. And for a journalist to go and release part of his private medical history, for what reason? What
for being a scumbag
or relevance does it have? You can't, you can't say, well, it was 2 weeks ago when this happened. And in the midst of this, 2 weeks ago, he was also having a mental feud. That's insane. This is not, there's no relevance here. So it's extremely frustrating, and just, we need to put the right level of opprobrium, if that's the word, and if I'm saying it right, on Ken Klippenstein. But I think he's already experienced quite a bit of that too. So to me, it's just, we'll see what happens in the courts and go from there.
Absolutely. Matt, if you could, quick question.
Yeah, Ivan, do you find it pretty challenging to go in this realm of this legal system where it's almost set up to push away these types of people that are trying to come out? Is it a giant legal hurdle to try to even get a word in for any of this stuff that you do? I'd like to learn a little bit more about that because I really don't know much, you know?
Well, I mean, I think it is a legal hurdle because I'm not an expert in national security law or, so we have to rely on others and find the right experts to inform us as attorneys exactly what the roadblock is. And again, that's the curiosity, right? I mean, I've talked to people and they say, well, it's this, it's this rule or it's this executive order. They'll cite the Espionage Act, but it's like, well, okay, but if a Congress, so it is hard because of the fear of repercussions and the lack of specificity in terms of the legal arguments. It is frustrating, but we'll get to the bottom of that. This happens in every new area of law or area of law we're engaged in. Yeah. You have to spend some time figuring it out. But what I do think is the big hurdle is simply a belief that has been internalized by many potential whistleblowers or by people who have something to say, whether you characterize them as a whistleblower or not, but they're simply prevented from saying so to anybody, no matter what. And I think there was a clip in the media just a couple of days ago of, was it Lakatsky and Kelleher? They were on, I forget what the German guy's name is, but he's a good podcaster. And there was a clip where they basically say they would lie. I mean, I found that I found that very, unusual but they seem to be under a deep belief, probably for, their own reasons. So I'm not saying that their reasons are done in bad faith. Maybe it is their true belief that they just cannot say anything and they have some reasons why, but certainly like to hear more about why they think that they would be able to, that they should lie to Congress or not tell the full truth. I don't know what to say about that, but it's something that I need to be better informed about and to hear with much greater specificity the legal reasoning involved. So it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and it is very frustrating because usually you have people who come forward and say something like, I want to talk about this. What's stopping me? But here they're stopping themselves. And so we need to know why.
Yeah. And I guess part of the other problem, too, is, Ivan, is these individuals can come forward and talk to members of Congress and such. But when they come out in front and they talk to the public, they don't have any goods or anything that can be showed or shared with the public. And it's all of a matter of word. But government these days and people who worked in the government don't have the highest levels of believability coming across from the American people. I think less than 29% of the public currently trusts the government.
Well, and this is a question for you all to think about. I ask myself these kinds of questions, at night, usually when I'm finally have a moment for my mind to wander, but there's this belief that if one was, that there's going to be a whistleblower is going to come forward and is going to say something so monumentous and magical that there is that there is a document, that there's a photo, there's a video that is going to change everybody else's mind. And, I like the idea of obviously gathering as much evidence as we can, but it does beg the question for me at this point of, what is the next quantum of evidence that we can adduce that will suddenly change people who did not believe to believers? Does it exist? Meaning, do you have an internal hope that one whistleblower will come, produce a document signed by Dwight Eisenhower, with a photo of him, walking an alien into, what is this thing out there that is supposed to convince everybody that there's NHI? I think we've gotten a lot of evidence already, and that there is a curiosity. I get it. We haven't had the president of the United States announce anything specifically, and we haven't seen anything land on the White House lawn, as people say. So I get where there's a desire for some chalice, some final piece of evidence, which is going to persuade everybody else that this is a real thing and we need to take it seriously. But I don't know that such a thing exists. That is to say, I think we must go with the assumption right now that we have enough evidence to move forward, that we don't need another whistleblower. Not that it wouldn't be fantastic to have more evidence produced, that there is some unidentified, anomalous phenomena going on out there.
But
And
we actually had a statement a year ago in March. It was the Friday before we had Gillibrand's first hearing with Kirkpatrick. And there was a representative from Space Force who came out in a press conference, and he said, yes, UAPs are real. We have them here in the United States. We're investigating it, but it's not just our thing. It's a global phenomenon, and we're working with our partners around the world to try and figure it out. So meantime, you've got RO going and saying we have no proof of anything, yet you have one of the heads of Space Force coming out doing the acknowledgement. So you've got these competing dialogues that we're getting from one part of the government versus the other part. And, it's unfortunate that statements like that just kind of get lost in the mix with all the disinformation we were getting coming out of Congress's RO department that was put together for them and funded by them.
No, absolutely. And I get it. So you have, some people advocating and saying that they're there, others saying that there's nothing. And I get where there's this confusion, but I guess, just sort of going back to sort of more of the, I don't know if I'd call it philosophy or just sort of the general, just thinking about things that, is there something out there that will convince others, is there this holy grail of evidence that exists, and can we get it? Now, I will say that as part of, it's in a signal group that me and some others have created called the UAP Architecture Project, we're trying to figure out a little bit more about how such a program would work. That is to say, how, to me, coming from both plaintiffs' work as well as the corporate side of things, corporations, even small ones, take a lot of coordination to get finance and accounting and HR, and you get people who have slips and falls and harassment. Like you have this, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and so how can we find more evidence of what I describe as the architecture behind the program? I think that's a very interesting area to endeavor in. And I know there have been people who have certainly tried to do that, but they've been mostly alone. And so putting together a group of people who are, focused on that project is something that we've been doing. And I'm looking, hope to see where that leads. And it's a wonderful adventure for some very, very bright people. But, again, going to what I was saying is that what is this next, what is this holy grail that we're looking for? I think at this point, the evidence is sufficient to more than make a prima facie case that, there are UAP, NHI, and we need to figure out what they are.
Yeah.
And
can I even just say this really quick?
Yeah.
Not what they are. Why are they here? Let's take the energy systems. That's DOE stuff. Put it off to the side. Let's take how the craft work, how fast they move. Let's take that, put it off to the DOD, right? Let's leave it down to, let's just focus on why the hell are they here? What are they doing? And that's, I think, the biggest question that could potentially free us up from the encumbrance of the executive branch.
I love those ontological questions. I think they're very important, and I think they're almost the most important. And I'll just give you my own, I'm just talking here. So I'm just talking. So it's just my own way of thinking here. But, I grew up, I'm 53. I grew up mostly before the internet, I mean, if you all remember CompuServe disks and AOL and, the CDs coming through the mail.
Prodigy.
All that crap. Prodigy, right? Exactly.
You've got mail.
Yes, exactly. Right. And, so you're living in that time, and now 35 years later, or whatever it's been, you see the internet this is our conversation here is facilitated by the internet. All the videos and photos that are, message boards that we see are facilitated by the internet. The internet has remarkable power and has done remarkable things. But if you'd asked me 35 years ago, would it produce the negative effects that it has? I would not have suspected that, people would be throwing themselves off of bridges, off of a Facebook post or a tweet, or, you know what I mean? Like I would have thought that the technology would have had very few downsides, minus some changes in jobs, right? Because that's going to happen when you have a new technology. Inevitably, it's going to impact jobs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the technology, although that's a source of great fascination for people, and it is very important, and if it was, kept hidden or could be used to improve our quality of life, inhibit or change global climate change, global warming, produce more bounty for everybody, reduce poverty, all those wonderful things, 100% for them. But for me, the ontology, the meaning behind this, are we alone? What does it mean to be here? Who are they? What are they? Why would they come here? All those questions are really the most amazing ones that we need to focus on, because the technology doesn't make sick people better. Sick people don't get better when they have you hand them the iPhone 16. It's like, are you feeling better now? No, you're still very upset. So my hope is, and then again, this is my personal, I don't put this on any other person or organization, but for me, it's the ontology and the civics. What's going on? What is reality? How do we find out? And how do we do that ethically within the framework of our government so that it functions, so that the voice of the people is considered? And that's really, why I'm a part of this. It's nothing more than that. I have more than enough work to keep me occupied without ufology for the rest of my life and another person's life. So it's not about, I'm not in it for the money. I could care less. I live fine. You can't, this is filled with McDonald's coffee. It's $1.80 or whatever it is. You can't buy me, so I'm just in it for figuring out helping, find out what's going on and keeping our country operating in a way that's consistent with its founding principles. I mean, it's as simple as that for me. So, but the ontology is the fascinating part, more so than the technology. Now, they may be related, obviously, right? I mean, there's connections there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
But maybe, just maybe, this whole UFO thing could be big enough, and the non-human intelligence is well put together in a package. Well, it may not be great for some countries to a degree. It's something that could potentially unite humanity around the world in a way that we haven't seen before, versus worrying about our race, our sex, or religion, any of that stuff. We come together as humanity because we've got this other thing that's here that's potentially doing things to other humans and other stuff that, could make us worry less about state lines, government lines, and more focus on everybody.
Right. I think it was Reagan or somebody who said, if we had an external enemy, it would unite us internally. But that's not and I get it. If we knew something else was out there and interfering with individuals or hurting them or examining them, obviously that would unify us. I get that. But I would just caution. And again, I'm not trying to take an oppositional side. I'm just always trying to think through, it's kind of like what lawyers do. They kind of balance both sides of the equation. If you look at the people who do believe, like us or this audience, or who at least accept that there's some, reason to look into this, has it unified them? No. Ufology itself is extremely fractured. The people are not kind to each other a lot of the times. There's a lot of behind the scenes nonsense.
A lot of toxicity.
A lot of toxicity. So when people say, gee, if we just have this knowledge, we'll all unify. It's like, well, why don't you get unified before you have that knowledge? Like I'm always trying to tell people, it's like, and this is, again, a critique, and it's just, again, my own opinion. I don't push it on anybody else, but there's this theme that once we have disclosure, we're going to be the people we want to be. And it's like, no. Be the people you want to be now, right? Be the people you want to be now. And then when and if there is disclosure, hopefully we will have the, capacity to reflect upon it well and to be our best selves. Yeah. I guess what I'm saying, there's no time to wait to treat each other well and to be unified. And we don't have to wait until there's disclosure. Doesn't prevent any of that, it isn't inhibiting that. So I think we need to start now. And that's, that's one of the other things that I'm somewhat focused on, is to try to bring a little bit more unity between all the UAP organizations to the extent that it's possible. It sometimes is not. But I think that we need to have more collaboration. We need to work in groups more. We need to treat each other well, have specific objectives and try to achieve them, and proceed with positivity. One of the things that I think that I've seen is, and there's a lot of positivity, in this community, but there is also a lot of unfortunate infighting and we just got to be. I think we got to be better now to accept what may be coming and to be prepared for it. So, the point of view.
You would think, though, that the people who don't want to believe in pushing back, and as well as the people who do want to believe to a degree or want to have the facts, would come together under disclosure, because here they're saying it doesn't exist, here they're saying it does exist. But if we push disclosure forward and bringing out the truth, we're going to get the answer that both sides are looking for. But it's the side that's pushing back is even pushing back against getting the truth out, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a very curious thing. Brings a lot of questions about, the human mind, the sociology of people, what they, it brings a lot of questions. And unfortunately, I probably am just as confused as I ever was about, how to navigate people and how to get them to work towards a common goal. But to the extent that I can, the reason why Disclosure Advocacy Group, UAP Disclosure Fund, UAP Caucus and others, we're all trying to work together to make things happen.
Yeah.
And it's a process. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we can become our best selves now and not wait for this thing called disclosure to then give us the power or desire to really be good now. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what is the advocacy group you're a part of again? Because I know we talked a little bit about UAP Disclosure Fund and everything, but I'd be interested to hear some info about the advocacy group.
So Disclosure Advocacy Group is a group of attorneys. It's only about 8 of us. We've 8 or 9. We've kept it kind of small for now. But it's a group of attorneys. They're all around the country, East Coast, West Coast, a couple in the center of the country. And there's more who want to join. We just haven't really, moved forward with it just yet. But basically, we're going to be handling FOIA requests. For example, when people have made a FOIA request and had their appeal denied, then we're going to go ahead and litigate it, depending on, how strong it is, and actually go into file a complaint in district court. We have a bunch of different projects that we're looking at, but again, we're just not quite ready to accept our first clients. But I suspect within a couple of months we'll be where we need to be. So we'll be focusing on FOIA requests. That's what I call sort of the low-hanging fruit, to actually litigate them, not just to send a million requests, get denied, and figure out how you can change the language and hopes it gets to a different person and somehow they give you a reveal. That's perfectly great. And it's admirable work, but somebody actually needs to go and litigate. Now, I know there have been a couple of people who have litigated some cases, but I think it's a pretty costly process. So that's one thing we'll do, is help with FOIA requests. There are a variety of other kinds of requests we've been, asked to look at. There's also potentially helping whistleblowers. So it's not yet fully there yet, but once we get there, we'll be doing all kinds of advocacy, including for other organizations. So, for example, I've been asked, sometimes to help other organizations with some documents, and I'll do that when I can.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. So it's really intended to be the sharp end of the stick. And I can't wait for when we actually launch, so we can begin helping some of the people in the community, because I know that they don't have the resources or the time or the expertise to actually, they can't hire an attorney for whatever it would cost to get into district court. So we'll be there to do that for them. So that's Disclosure Advocacy Group, and it's its own thing. UAP Disclosure Fund, obviously a 501c4. It's doing lobbying and other things, and so it's kind of got its own wheelhouse. Disclosure Advocacy Group is its own wheelhouse, but we're all friends. We all collaborate well. We all get along well. So it's just a different approach. The way I've been telling people in general about not just this, but I think we're all on the same path, but we might have slightly different journeys, is a way of framing it, right? We're all trying to get to disclosure, but we're trying to do it in different ways. And to me, there's not one right way to do it. Have at it, multiple efforts, try to work together where you can, and be positive for others' success. I think if you can do all of those things, people do remarkable things. When you put them in groups, give them an objective, and are positive about it, give them some kind of resources, they can do amazing things. And we're trying to do that.
Excellent. Great conversation all around. I know you're probably limited on time here. Mike, anything else coming from your side as well?
Oh, no. Everything that Ivan has been discussing covers basically what's going on behind the scenes and publicly. And it's really great work that he and his group are doing with the attorneys to help people like whistleblowers to come forward or litigate FOIA requests, or just in general get through the maze that the government has used as obstacles to prevent the truth from coming out. And needless to say, the work that he's doing with LUE as well is absolutely incredible. And Ivan is involved with looking into how the government keeps their secrets with the architecture group that he mentioned. And he's right. There are very good people in that group. And the work that they are doing is focusing on following how the government is obfuscating this information from the public and Congress. And it's usually in any textbook investigation, first things first, you follow the money. So I know Ivan is working with financial experts in the field who are also looking into that as well. So hopefully moving forward, there's a lot of good work going on behind the scenes with him and some very good people. And we're pushing for the truth. And I have a feeling that at one point we'll be successful with that. And Ivan has been amazing in putting all of this together and organizing it.
Well, thanks, Mike. I mean, I've I'm not one to really talk about, my own amazements, but I think that, like I said, for me, it's been a great privilege, a really fun change to engage this community. I know it can be very contentious and people have, a lot of controversy and all of that. But for me, overall, I look at people and I assume that they're bringing their goodwill to it. We all have a lot of curiosity for this. I think that as an American, because I'm an American, obviously, I have great concerns about the civics process behind the scenes. I have that's my principal concern. As far as, all these organizations, we're trying to do the right thing. It's not easy. I can tell you that. And obviously, it's a lot harder. I don't go into all the details, but it is a lot more stressful and hard than people would imagine, especially the pundits out there, whether they're pro-disclosure, certainly if they're anti-disclosure. This is a technical and very human process, but it's a wonderful thing. It's an incredible journey. And I think we are going to make a lot of momentum. I think one of the things, the zeitgeist has changed in the public, in the Congress, and amongst the community. I think we are headed, but it will probably take more time. It's there is probably nobody with a little red dragon, who's going to truck in a UFO and have it levitate in front of the Congress. I just don't think that's going to happen. But we will eventually get the right whistleblowers, and we will straighten this situation out so that we can have our Congress, particularly our House, take back its authority and demand disclosure of whatever it is happening in the executive, within the intelligence community, so that our system works. Because this is the most important thing. The United States, it's not an ethnically unified country. It doesn't have a 2,000-year history of one culture. It is really a community of communities. It is a republic, and it is a democracy, and that demands accountability. But we've gotten to a very strange place where, unfortunately, the Congress hasn't really asserted itself and has accepted the narrative of some contingent of the IC community, and I just think that just doesn't make sense at all to me. And we're going to keep pushing this until we get to some final answers. All that being said, I'm not an experiencer. I've never seen one of these things. So I approach it very, I wouldn't say neutrally, but I would say that I have to maintain the balance and approach it in sort of a legal way. And that's all I can do.
Well, I'd say the correct description of that would be you approach it impartially. Right, Ivan?
Yeah, I mean, I take all the evidence and I try to stay away from all the personalities and figure out how we can move this forward. But the evidence is clear to me, at least, that I do think that there has been, sadly, for a long period of time, a secret government program or series of programs which have kept the secret hidden. And I think that's my greatest concern, is not actually the ontology of these extraterrestrials or wherever they are, NHI. My concern is actually the impact disclosure will have on our civics. That is to say, what will people think of a country, of a government that is relatively successfully hidden a very, very deep secret from them about their place in the universe, as well as all these other, things that may be concurrent with that, such as the technology or the abductions or whatever it is. There's going to be a big hit, and I don't think that can be frankly controlled. I think that in the sense that this shock to the system of this truth, if it's proven to be true that we have hidden this from ourselves, is one where we deserve the shock, because this is just unacceptable, to keep this truth hidden from all of us. You got to live a true life, and for that you need to know what reality is. And so it's a very concerning thing from that perspective, because to me, again, and I go back to it, if you remember during COVID, and I don't want to get political on COVID, there were things that we did right and many things that we did wrong. But looking in retrospect, people were fighting over toilet paper for an airborne, it didn't make any sense. We behaved ridiculously. We shut down schools where the children were the ones who were least likely. And I understand it was to help some of the teachers, but, we shut down schools and people didn't get educated and, had very different resources in order to do that at home. And it was just a very, not a great process.
Well, it's been estimated over $1 billion was spent by the government pushing misinformation to the public.
Listen, there was, there are good things about masks and bad things about masks. There was a lot of misinformation, and it was done, unfortunately, it seems, on purpose. And it led to real chaos, not just, that we had to wear masks.
We just got to be careful because YouTube is a bit...
Oh, I apologize. Well, yeah. I don't want to get into but basically what I'm just saying is that we need to realize that this could cause a great shock to people who believe in the United States, who believe in the country.
But what happens if China comes out first, or Russia, or someone else that, and they bring out the facts?
I don't think China, possibly, but those systems are so closed. They're so controlled, those systems, right? Yeah. They're so controlled. There would be no advantage to Putin or China that I can see, other than pretending that they're open, to doing such a disclosure. I'd be very surprised, even if they had something going on, that they would suddenly say, you know what? We've decided to wing it and tell everybody about this, about UAP. It's possible, but I just don't necessarily see that as probable. But I understand your point, which is that they could disclose prior to us and be perceived as being more credible or be more honest and gain goodwill in that way. It's possible. But for me, again, I think that we, regardless of what China and Russia do, and I expect almost nothing from them, since I'm not a fan of Putin at all. Don't love that guy. I think that we need to do this for ourselves. We need to do this for ourselves. We need to meet this challenge head on, get into the disclosure process, really figure out and tell the American people, and then trust the American people. Lou says something, he always says America can handle the truth. And that's a really strong belief. And I can tell you, he believes that. He believes we can handle the truth. And so I believe it too. And that's where we need to go. So to preserve our country, I think this is an important thing. I think it's really important and I think we can handle it. I think it's going to be a shock to some people to realize that the secret was kept hidden. But you think about other secrets. D-Day was kept hidden until the day it happened. Most people didn't know it was going to happen, even those on both sides of the channel. Or the atomic bombs. Most people didn't know that they're there. So it's possible that this was kept hidden. We now need to reveal it. We now need to get the American people to understand what it means. We need to study it scientifically, see what the motive or intent is behind whatever these objects are and things are, and figure out how to deal with this new reality. But I think it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time as a lawyer. It's an exciting time as journalists and just people who are interested in this topic. I think we should be very positive and persistent and realize we're going to win. It's just going to take a little more time to get the rest of everybody on board.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right, Ivan. But talking about civics, one of the key obstacles that we're up against, because we live in a democracy, is that it's a double-edged sword. It's two sides to every coin. And you're right. This is a bipartisan effort to bring out disclosure. The problem with that, and the other side of the coin to that is that it is equally a bipartisan effort against disclosure from within our Congress. Like key examples of that would be Representative Mike Turner from Ohio.
But he's
who was
Republican. That's the problem. It seems like most of the pushback we're getting in Congress, especially in the House, is coming from the Republican side. On the other side of it, it doesn't seem like in the House we have too much interaction from people on the Democrat side of the fence. So it should be bipartisan, but it seems like there's a rift in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, well, as I was saying, Representative Mike Turner, who is voted one of the most corrupt politicians in Washington, D.C. for several years running, he is working hand in hand with Democrats within Congress, like Representative Jim Himes from Connecticut, who is Democrat. And there are other Democrats that are on the same side as Mike Turner, who are equally, in a bipartisan approach, pushing against the truth. And I have a feeling a lot of that has to do with corruption. And we've covered this on the show extensively, Thomas and I, about the money that flows from the taxpayer's pocket into the military-industrial complex, and then in turn back to these corrupt politicians who are trying to shut this down. So there's a lot of obstacles, Ivan, that we have to face, including from within.
Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately, money is the root of all evil. I've seen it many, many times where people do things that you would just be very surprised for very small amounts of money, or sometimes very large amounts of money, So it is something that is, unfortunately, there's an effort that is definitely bipartisan to keep this from the American people. And, but again, going back to it, time is really now in our favor. I think the momentum has shifted. More people believe it's real. More people are curious about it. We have more organizations being formed. There's a legal component to it, which is getting, stood up better. So I think that we got to, look also at the positive things and keep a positive approach. And, people like Mike Turner, I mean, I don't have a lot of positive things to say about that, but I think that we, while it's always nice to choose sort of a bad guy, and he's definitely fulfilled that role. I'm not going to, take it away from him. That the better advice is to focus on the positive things we're doing, right? We'll get past Mike Turner. It may take some time, but we'll get past this. We're going to succeed. It's just, you can tell that the momentum is on our side. It doesn't mean we don't have to, but we got to stop ourselves from being so combative internally, organize, raise funds, lobby, because if you look at it in any other, when you want to change Congress and you're part of, let's say, a hospital system, and you have a problem with, something in hospitals, or you're a forest group and you want to, protect forests, or whatever it is, you have lobbying groups who associate, right? They form associations of realtors, associations of home builders, associations of whatever, chemical people. And they put time and effort into getting to know staff. They make contributions financially. They create advertising campaigns. They provide information. They litigate. And ufology right now is very fractured, right? But if we unify and join together and attack the problem more as one, then we will become a powerful force. But if it's just, hit or miss, or just individuals, I think you don't have the weight to do it. So we need to kind of focus on ourselves more than the bad guy Mike Turner, rather than how bad is this guy Mike Turner? Instead, we turn the question around as like, what can we do today to make things better, to get another 100,000 people to believe this or to learn about it? What else can we do? That's where my mind is. It's on the positive things, not on the negative bad guys. And that's kind of a simple framing, but that helps me keep moving every day.
No, you're right. And you should share for our audience part of the conversation you and I had before the show. If the government truly believes that there is nothing to this topic, then why not legislate it? Right, Ivan?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the craziest things ever. It's like, okay, you don't believe it's there? Well, why not? I always go back, and I said this on a podcast a long time ago, but there's a story which I always found fun, which is there was there was a rumor that there was a Bengal tiger in an apartment in Harlem back in the early 2000s, and that somebody had a Bengal tiger. And of course, literally in a public housing project. And there were reports coming in, I guess, to the police saying, hey, this guy is a tiger. And you can imagine what the police officers in New York were saying at the time, like, get out of here. They probably were like, there's a Bengal tiger. You were just seeing a cat. That's just a large cat. You heard roars. The guy's TV was probably just on really loud. I can't trust you. You're, you smoke marijuana. You probably were seeing things, right? And nobody bothered to check. And then one day, this guy shows up into a hospital, apparently with a huge chunk taken out of his leg. And the people at the hospital were like, hey, that's not a dog. What bit you? And eventually they went to his apartment. And there's a famous photo in the New York Times of like a fireman scaling a ladder. And you see this 350, 400-pound tiger in this guy's apartment window. You can literally look this thing up. And if somebody had just checked, but there were always the complete, so many people would say, well, how could the guy raise a tiger there? Where would its waste go? What would he feed it? How would it not kill him? And it took him 2.5, 3 years. The thing grew from a kitten to a 400-pound tiger, and nobody checked it out. So my point is if, and if you had told me if it's possible to raise a Bengal tiger in a Harlem apartment, I would say there's absolutely no way that could ever happen. It never could happen, but it did, right? So similarly, it is possible. I apologize, my dog is barking at something, but these things we need to investigate. If somebody could just, let's investigate. Why not? And so that begs the question, why not? And look, the UAPDA, 2.0, however you want to refer to it, if it passes, fantastic. But if it doesn't, we'll still be back at it. We're going to come with more. And we're not going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're going to keep pushing this on the legislative front, on the legal front, and hopefully in public discussions like what you bring, podcasts like yours and others really do a good job of creating a place for information and people to talk. And I think we just need to keep doing that. I really believe that even though I've not been at this for many years. And so for people who've been at this for 30 years, I'm sure they're saying, okay, this, I don't know whether they're hopeful or not, but I come at this with a lot of hope. I've met just too many very bright people, and the whistleblowers themselves, many of them very good, solid people. I mean, you talk to them, they don't seem like they're, they seem like smart people who have something to say. So hopefully we'll get to the point where they feel the courage that they can speak their full truth to members of Congress, and make our democracy work the way it should be. That's what really this is fundamentally about for me. It's about the civics of it, and I know I repeat it, but it's very important. Our country is very strong, but it has its weak spots, and this issue has revealed a very big concern for me personally. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you and I have talked about this often. One of the key obstacles that's going to have to be legislated and addressed moving forward for any additional whistleblowers to come forward with the truth about disclosure, there's going to have to be increased whistleblower protections that are put into play. Because right now, it's not strong enough for their protection. They don't feel safe or secure like they should. So, and I know you're working with LUE on that in DC, in Washington. You have many meetings that you attend trying to get that legislation passed, because if that isn't been able to been put forward to protect them in the way that they need and to secure that they have no reason not to come forward, they're going to stay in the background, in the shadows, which is what we've been dealing with the whole time. Right, Ivan?
Well, I mean, I'll go up to this part with you. There's a belief, again, by the whistleblowers themselves that many of them parrot this idea that they need some new legislation to protect them. For example, from losing security clearances, because usually after they leave, they go back and consult or they work for a corporation. So they're worried about that if their security clearance is put under review, that they won't be able to earn a living after they leave the government. For them, that is, something that is a desired option after you leave employment, whether it's through retirement or through something else. You want to be able to still continue to work, many of and still earn some money. So that said, it is a question of whether additional whistleblower protections are actually needed. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying this is a question that I have about why it is that they feel that they presently can't go to a member of Congress on the relevant committees, right? House Intelligence, Senate Intelligence, and tell one of the Gang of Eight their full truth. I don't know. I'm not going to say 100% that I believe that new whistleblower protections are actually needed. I'm also not saying that they shouldn't be enacted, right? I'm taking a neutral point of this is a question of law that we need to get to the bottom of with much greater specificity. I don't know that more whistleblower protections are needed. I'm also not saying that they aren't. I'm saying that that is a question that we need to really engage. But even so that's kind of where we are right there on that. So a lot of people
I
say,
had heard last year that we actually lost some people who were going to testify last year because the DOD found out about it and was doing some stuff to go ahead and jerk around some of their security clearances, just like you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones who would have to reveal this truth, and maybe they already have. I don't know which ones you're referring to in particular, but I would say
Colonel is one of them, right, Thomas?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, well, then I've not spoken to him about that, but I understand that some whistleblowers are saying that this would, that they are getting repercussions that are not prescribed by law, and therefore some law would benefit them in that way. Fair enough. Let's see. And of course, if we can get that passed, great. But waiting for the legislation to be initiated before proceeding forward, even though it'd be wonderful if we could get the UAPDA passed or different legislation or whistleblower protections that were more encompassing. Yes, nothing wrong with that. But if we're not able to pull that off for whatever reason, if new legislation is not going to be pulled, then what can we do? Are we 100% sure that there is not a legal basis right now for whistleblowers to go forward and tell their whole truth to the right person in the right location and facility, right? Is that entirely prescribed? And how do we know that? And who would prosecute that? Again, I'm not presenting myself as any expert in this, so this is something I admit I need more information on, and I think we all do. But I don't think we can just take it as the truth, what the whistleblowers say themselves about their inability to testify as being based on law. Because when I've spoken to some people, they have not been able to describe to me in any coherent way the law and how it prohibits them from testifying in the circumstance I've described. Again, to a member of Congress on one of the intelligence committees, preferably one of the Gang of Eight. Why can't they tell their whole truth to that person? And how does this reflect upon our issue of separation of powers and having checks and balances? Right? That is the fundamental question. So again, I'm not diminishing the idea that it would be terrific to have enhanced whistleblower protection laws. I'd love something very simply written that would, give people the confidence that they feel they need. Nevertheless, there are a lot of questions about whether they can't do that already. And, there's been a lot of, without going into all the boring details and it's even, there's just a lot more to it. So we'll get into that over time, and hopefully we can come back in a couple of months and give you a report about what we've learned and where we are on that. But again, I guess I'm just putting out a word of caution, which is simply this: we don't know, or at least I can say I don't know, and I admit I'm ignorant, so I need to get more knowledge. But we don't know for a fact that while we know that the whistleblowers themselves say that they feel, that they need greater protection. And of course, I'd want to give them what they want in order to be able to come forward. The question is what is that? And are we sure they can't already, some of them can't already come forward now? I guess I'm just saying this is an open question. Right. I don't like to buy in, until somebody shows me specifically why. I'm not going to simply accept and say, yes, all the whistleblowers are right without any additional legislative action we will never hear about disclosure. I just
Right.
don't think that is true.
Now, there's a lot of talk about NDAs and agreements people have signed to keep quiet. If their NDAs are in effect covering up a crime that's going on, is it still enforceable?
I mean, no. I mean, it's a simple matter of no, right? You can't hide an illegal program. And so one of the and of course that depends on if the program is illegal or if the actions under the program, maybe the program is legal, but some of the actions are illegal. We'll see. But in general, this idea of there's an illegal program, but I can't tell Congress about it, seems very internally contradictory, which is kind of what you're bringing up. So, can they be bound to an NDA to hide an illegal program? That just sounds nonsensical to me.
Yeah. It's one of those.
But whether the program is illegal or what aspects of it, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Time will definitely tell on this, and
Time will tell.
hopefully more people will come forward. Hopefully we'll have more than just one hearing a year. We'll get into a regular pace of things. I know there was conversations in the past about doing field hearings that never materialized. Hopefully with the right leadership in the House, Senate, and the White House, hopefully we can get a trifecta of momentum to move this stuff forward, because honestly, if we do have a change in power in, or if you want to call parties in the White House, there's a good chance that things may be moving forward a little bit faster than they have for the last 3.5, 4 years.
I guess so. I can't read the political tea leaves to know whether one of these two parties is the disclosure party. It doesn't seem to me like there is one. So I think it's I don't know. Maybe I just don't put in all my faith into the the Republicans or Democrats to being the disclosure party. I think you have individual Congress people who have an inclination, but I hope you're right. I mean, I either way, but it's a balancing, right? It's a balancing of things, right? Because you may want one candidate because they seem more pro, disclosure, but then they have a bunch of other things which make you maybe not like, them. And so it's everybody should vote their own ethics and, not be just single issue voters, in my opinion.
Ivan, I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Rick Doty, who is former Air Force counterintelligence. He has a lot of knowledge on what we're talking about right now. Say hi, Rick. Your mute button is on.
Hi, Ivan.
Hey, nice to meet you, Rick. Nice to meet you.
I've listened to the entire show from the
Oh, good.
Great presentation. Really great.
It was just impromptu. Mike just said, "Hey, would you come on for a few minutes?" And I said I would. And I'm available, by the way. If you follow me on Twitter, Ivan_Hannel, HANNEL. I do respond to things, and try to give I don't post as often as I probably should, but as a lawyer, you try to stay a little quieter. So.
Absolutely.
But one thing I would add is that. The first Senate bill 2 years ago, that Senate amendment to the Senate Bill 2226. One of the problems with that amendment, and Danny Sheehan, Mike Orr, some other attorneys later brought it up, is that the way they wrote it, it conflicted with other federal laws, primarily Title 50 U.S. Code, which covers special access programs, Title 10 U.S. Code, Title 42 U.S. Code. So that was dead on arrival. It wasn't going to ever make it because the Senate staffs, which our group is very, very close to, their attorneys told them after they tried to present it, this isn't going to work. It just conflicts with other federal laws. So there has to be a amendment or a standalone bill that would be able to clear all those hurdles. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Right. Well, I hope that that's the case. I don't know what to expect of our lawmakers. I have no idea where this election is going. I barely have kept up with it. So, it'll be, although I did vote, but it's it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So yeah, I agree. And people have there are criticisms about UAP Disclosure Act. I get it, but we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Do I think it's likely to pass? No, I don't. But I mean, it's not. I'm just hearing the scuttlebutt from around the yard. I don't have any deep insight. But nevertheless, I think it's good to it's a good exercise nevertheless to propose what it is you hope to see happen, and even if it doesn't work out, lessons learned from it, and it develops the advocacy process, and you develop those relationships as you're talking about. So what's the motto? Try again.
Yeah. And it maybe next time slice it up, the pie, into a bunch of smaller pieces so there's a better chance of it potentially getting through rather than the whole thing just getting knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, you might be a little bit less ambitious and sort of get something that's more plausible, right? So, I mean, there's all different ways of cracking this nut. We're going to do our part through the UAP Disclosure Fund, as well as through Disclosure Advocacy Group, I think, over time to bring some legal power, sort of the legal tip of the spear where it needs to be. And, outside of that, we'll continue to represent LUE and try to do my best for him. And, just continue to try to help the community. I mean, my own personal, like I said, for me personally, collaborating, getting people together, getting people to work together, even if it's maybe not, going to lead to an immediate revelation of disclosure. I think that through all of these efforts, whether it's your show or whatever, all of these efforts, I kind of joke, but they kind of form an immaculate constellation of efforts towards disclosure. So I think with that's where I want to lead. That's, I think, what we're all trying to do. So
hopefully get rid of the eminent constipation we're all dealing with. Move it along.
We're definitely dealing with something, and we've got to get past it. I think it's really, I think that, this is this 2025, 2026, I think we're going to see in the next couple of years some remarkable things. And, more and more people are open to it, to the topic itself. And hopefully we'll make some strides. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you all. I hope you have a fabulous Saturday. It was nice to meet everybody. And now I got to go to Into the Woods, play for my kids. So
enjoy.
Go.
Take care, Ivan.
Right. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Ivan.
See you, Mike.
Really
Bye.
appreciate it. We'll speak again soon.
Adios, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, we got Ivan for a lot longer than we planned. That was a great conversation, Mike.
Oh, it sure as hell was. And I'm glad that Rick was able to join us for that conversation, part of it.
Rick,
Rick's here.
So I know Rick was saying he was watching the conversation all the way along, enjoying it. Rick, some greater thoughts from you on what did you like? What did you not like? Your thoughts on this?
I've heard of him, but I've never heard him speak. Somebody had sent me an email a while back, directed me to a website where he had some quotes on it, and I thought I thought he had a great idea, and I listened to him from the beginning. I didn't want to come in and disrupt anything. I just wanted to listen to him and see what he was going to say. And I think his presentation was great. I think he's behind the disclosure process, and I think he's a valuable asset to it. And his group, his 9 or 10 attorneys.
Yeah, it's great to know that we've got a bunch of attorneys on our side going up against the attorneys on the other side, and hopefully they can get some churn and bring in the right kind of chops to go ahead and help LUE and others move disclosure forward.
Yes, I agree. Let's say hi to everyone. It's been a while since I've been on, and I've had there's a I can say one thing. I'm going to Washington. There was 4 others. There were originally 6, but now there's only 4 of us is going. And there's a reason why the other 2, well, one can't because he's too old. The other one, there's a conflict, a very, very, very serious conflict between him and people within the Senate. So he's not going. Anyways, 4 of us are going up there. I can't talk about the date. I can't talk about what we've talked about with the Senate staff. But I am going up and give my 2 cents and hope that I can contribute to the movement that started within the House and now is moving over to the Senate. I think it's going to be a uphill battle because we don't know what the makeup of the House or Senate is going to be when we go up there. So, I mean, it's obviously after the elections, and it's going to be in a couple of months. So we'll see what happens. If there's going to be a big difference between what the Senate is now, which is Democrat, and they're pro, the ones we've spoken with are pro-disclosure. So I don't think we have any problems there. But if the Republicans take over the Senate, there may be a problem with procedural things because there's so much would be on the agenda of a new incoming president that this subject matter is going to be pushed back.
Yeah. Well, maybe
now,
the president could do something on executive action potentially.
Yeah, and we actually. We have attorneys within the Advanced Working Group. Most of them are ex-military, but some of them are practice in federal court, and they actually have an idea that a sitting president could sign some executive orders moving disclosure along, and it would be more or less orders to non-restrict agencies within the government, within the executive branch that he controls, from preventing disclosure from moving forward. And I think that's a good idea if we could get that done.
Because the president, I believe, puts in place the head of the the head of the Department of Energy. And I believe the president can also put in the person who's the head of the CIA. So if we want to get past the Atomic Energy Act of 1954, you need the president, the head of the head of the CIA, and the head of the DOE to all sign off on disclosure to happen from within the DOE, and hopefully it could be a perfect storm.
Yeah, there's obviously procedures. He can nominate his cabinet, but it has to be confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah.
And that may take some time, but you're right. Once they're in there, he has control over those agencies, and he can tell the Secretary of Energy, "Hey, listen, we need to modify Title 42, the Atomic Energy Act, and then we need to do this and that and some other things." But I think that could very well happen if Trump gets in there.
Yeah.
I think we would have more of a chance, I think, and I'm not taking sides. If Harris gets in there, and the Democrats maintain the Senate, I think that also could be worked out. She said some things recently here in New Mexico. She came to New Mexico, and she said some things about the labs. Remember, we have Sandia National Laboratories here in New Mexico, Los Alamos National Laboratories. We have a lot of research and developments, a lot of contractors who are working on DARPA projects centering on this subject, non-human intelligence. We have an entire industrial facility built just outside Kirtland Air Force Base where there's 16 government contractors, and every single one of them are working on DARPA projects. So, and she said something that she would support the advancement, and she said some other things about secret programs that that the public might need to know about. Now, she didn't say UFOs or UAPs, but the way she said it, I think it could open up to the subject that we're concerned about is non-human intelligence.
Yeah. And if the Republicans do take over the Senate, Mitch McConnell is going to be out, and he was the one who was slow walking everything that Trump wanted to bring out before. Because if you want to call him a never Trumper, he was probably one of those. But with Mitch moving off, there is a better chance for things in the Senate not to be stalled as much as they have been in the past when Republicans held the Senate.
Right. Yeah. The majority leader, if the Republicans take over, the majority can leave it. They can vote on it, but it'll probably be, well, we don't know yet, but
could be Rubio. You never know.
It could very well be Rubio. I think there would be a push for Rubio. There would also be a push for what's his name? The other senator from Texas, not Cruz, but what's his name? Brian, help me out here. Is Brian back here?
Ted Cruz, Rick.
No, besides Ted Cruz.
The other one. Who's the other Republican senator from Texas? He's the senior senator. He's the fourth senior senator. Yeah, Cornyn. Yeah. He's the fourth senior senator.
And that goes out. Yeah, Brian Pemble did answer in the chat. So
okay, good. Yeah, he did. Yeah. But anyways, let's hope something happens.
That's all we can do is hope and see where it goes. And, the most important thing is to get out there no matter what side of the coin you flip on. Vote. I saw a message from someone on Twitter today. They got to a polling place in Oklahoma. The line to vote was over a quarter mile long, wrapping around the center and off down into a subdivision street. 4 hours in line to finally get the sticker that said I voted. So most important thing, get out there and vote, people. The only way we're going to be able to get to the bottom of this is for everybody to take that duty. Have you voted yet, Rick?
Yes. My wife and I voted on Wednesday, early voting here in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And then that same day, we got our COVID and our flu shots.
Oh.
And so we were down Thursday and Friday. We're fine now, but
nice.
We got that over with. Yeah.
Nice.
We did
Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. Anything else from anyone else in the back? Rick, anything else from you, or I think we covered? I think we covered your update.
Rick, anything? It's been a while.
I can't talk about the dates or anything. The Senate swore to secrecy, but the four of us is going up there are veterans who were around in the 70s and 80s.
Nice.
And then one other person who would be recognized by everyone here. He was also going to go up. He's going to go up the day after we go up. We're up there for 3 days, so I don't know if we're going to. How long we're going to testify for a day and a half or whatever. I don't know, but
right.
And we know what the subject matters are. I can't go into details on. I'm sorry, I just can't.
Yeah.
But you'll hear about it eventually.
Can't wait to hear.
I will guarantee you that after I said my piece up there, I'll come on and give you the entire spiel.
Awesome, Rick. Looking forward to it, Rick. Mike, great show today. Thanks for rounding up Ivan for us.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Great show. And it was a nice thing to do, especially since we're getting closer to the hearing, to hear someone from LUE's side of what's going on behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And Rick coming to join us for the show was an unexpected pleasure as well.
Yeah. I saw you twisting his arm in the chat, which you're known for.
Just a little bit, but that's because we're friends.
Yeah. Absolutely. Brian.
Yeah, just real quick. I know you're closing down, Thomas, but I wanted to say a personal thank you to you, Thomas, Mike, and Michael Morris. We're going to be doing the LUE Elizondo talk tomorrow, so we will report on that for you all. That'll be myself, my wife, and Faye's Will, but for obtaining us the backstage passes and all that stuff, that's awfully generous, and so just a thank you. Good people all the way around.
I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun, Brian. It's going to interesting. Oh, interesting to be there backstage.
Yeah, it'll be great to meet Will. I think we'll have a good time, and I know that my wife will too. So, and great to see Rick here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. What a great show. What a great opportunity to hang out with friends. Hopefully our international audience and people from all around the world have enjoyed this show today. On that note, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for coming out to this episode of Disclosure Tonight. Most importantly, I want to thank the people who have helping keep the lights on here at Disclosure Tonight. We've had a lot of great super chats coming from our audience today. That includes JCat, Fat Frank, Eric Roth and the Gurus, Faze Will, Shelly Montgomery, and starting it up was Alex Park. Well, he's not here anymore, Alex, just to answer your question. And talk about jumping the shark on that one. Wow. Can't talk about that on the show, though. But anyway, I also want to go ahead and thank everyone in our audience for hanging out on this Saturday with us. Who do we have out there right now? Let's go ahead and take a look. We've got Anjoanne AK, Andy W., Biosava, Savia, Brian Pemble, Country Carpenter, Delta Echo, Eric Roth and the Gurus, Gene Splice, J Cat, John Smith, Kevin Jewell, King Bull, Kelly Brotenels, Piercing Blue Eyes, Laszlo, Hides in Long Grass, Mr. Catfish 2100, Yerp, Peggy and her South Florida friends, Rick Doty, the Mac Geek, and Yankee 58. More importantly, I also want to thank the friends in the back who have been here for part of the show, asking the questions, helping me out in the beginning. Andy W., thanks for being here, my friend.
My absolute pleasure, Thomas. It's great to be back. It's great to see Rick and everybody. And thank you, Ivan, if you see this in a rewatch at all. It's been a really good show tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Also, and Brian Pemble, thanks for being here, my friend.
Hey, great show. Great guest.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hollywood Herald, great question, my friend, tonight.
No problem, Thomas. Glad to be here. You had an interesting show tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Laura Campbell, thanks for coming out. Thanks for your questions today.
It was another amazing evening. Thank you.
And my heart goes out for Peanut as well. Long live Peanut. And his successor. Hopefully he gets one. He'll have to start up they have a wildlife rescue. Now he needs to start specifically a squirrel rescue just to turn the screws on the Department of Wildlife in New York State. Also want to go ahead and thank Matt Ramon. Thanks for coming out today, Matt.
Hey, show was started off slow, but got pretty good. So congrats.
Absolutely. Rick, thanks for coming out today, my friend. It was great to have you pop in for a bit.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to, I turned on and saw that you were having Ivan, and I really wanted to listen to what he said. And I didn't want anybody to be distracted by me. So I just sat in the background and listened. It was a great show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. And Mike, thanks for helping out. Thanks for putting everything together. As always, appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad that our friends like Ivan and Rick can come and join us to help us inform the audience on everything that we're doing and what's going on. It was great.
Oh, excellent time. Excellent time. And as we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone, but
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you on the flip side. See you Monday, everybody. Take care. Y'all come back now here. Bye-bye.